Futures trading involves risk and is not suitable for all investors. Content provided in this segment is meant for educational purposes and is not a solicitation to buy or sell commodities.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I am Cody. He is Andy. Together, we are the Tech Talk trio. Is it a trio?
Sure.
All right.
If you throw Paige in there.
Well, we're actually a day ahead of schedule today. We're actually filming this on Wednesday, the 21st of February.
Wednesday. We're one day ahead of schedule. Yeah. We're in the future, sort of.
12:30 Central Time. Earliest? No, not earliest, but early Tech Talk from what we usually.
Pretty close. I think last week it was in the morning, but it was also on a Thursday.
That's true. We have two people had texted in looking for charts.
Two people. One of those person is a new request. Another
newbie.
Not Sailor Moon this time.
Where does this one come from?
She's taking a sailor break in terms of getting us this came from Market Eye Mike. Market Eye Mike.
Dude, shout out. I love that.
I love that name. That's a great. Market Eye. I mean, like, how many people do you know named Market Eye?
I know a guy named Prison Mike.
Yeah.
Remember Prison Mike? That's pretty much.
How could you forget Prison Mike? Of course I remember. Do I remember Prison Mike? Come on.
We'll get him on here so everybody knows Prison Mike.
We'll get him on. For now, we got Market Eye Mike. Right. And then longtime listener, longtime caller, Jim Bro, he wants to talk about just one chart this time. Not one or two. Not two tree charts, but just one. So Jim Bro and Market Eye Mike. And we're actually going to start with Market Eye Mike's first chart request, beans. And his request was also a little bit more in depth too. So he was asking for beans and corn front month versus some of the deferred months. So in this case, we're going to look at March beans, and then we're going to look at Nov 24 beans. Okay. And if there's any material difference. So I'll just get us started. This is March beans. And I guess the only thing, what sticks out to me is that, like, any attempt that we've had to try to break out of this downtrend has just been met with aggressive selling. This time, though, we're actually up against what appears to be pretty long-term support in the March bean contract, at least. And we've also got the momentum piece that we've talked about before. Blow this bad boy up so you guys can all see.
Very reminiscent of May beans that we looked at last week, also.
So it's starting to put in, at least trying to put in a W.
Yeah.
Right, which would be a friendly formation for this, which would imply it doesn't necessarily mean beans has to go higher, right? Just because if this thing goes from up to zero, for example, that could just mean that the market's consolidating.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean we need to go higher per se, right? That's all this is saying is that the momentum to the downside is slowing down. So ipso facto, between longer term, what looks like pretty solid support. I mean, last time we were at 11.50, we promptly went to $14.
Yes.
Right. And so it's a key area, right? I mean, if we broke through that and started to continue to go lower, like, oops, daisy, this thing could get really dicey to the downside. But between this W here and this long-term support, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a little bit of consolidation. I would imagine 11.50 beans is probably going to prompt some buying. What do you think?
Well, I was just going to say, you've always said kind of look at the longer-term chart on a longer-term scale. If you look at a monthly,
longer-term
11.50 is looks like the next testing area.
Right here. So the monthly does, we're almost at the end of the month too, by the way. How about that? So the monthly you're almost closing into a new low here. So that low, though, so what's interesting is it really doesn't jive that well with what we've looked at before. But this low is reporting 11.71. I think we have to look into that bar to make sure, because if you look at like the daily, it's pretty clear that low right here is 11.45 and a quarter. So there's a little bit of issue that we're having with like how the data is actually being pulled and what chart is being used to calculate that monthly data. That said, it's still not looking too rosy here.
No.
It's, to me, I feel like what will take precedent here is this support level. Do you break through it? If you don't, and then you break out of this longer term downtrend, you could see a retracement of this, and then maybe take another shot at going lower. Right. So if we just do this, bam. If I think this is a head and shoulders pattern right here, by the way. One head, first edge, shoulder, head, shoulder right here. And then we broke through the neckline and poof. So I took from that shoulder right here where it failed on the right side here and do this, just the Fibonacci from where it's at now. Let me take a 30% retract. What that takes? 12.36. That's totally within reason. So I think you got to be a little bit careful here. I guess if I was short, I'd be looking at buying calls or maybe converting your risk into puts or something. But if you look at per Market Eye Mike's request, The only big difference that I see here is that the deferreds have more room to break before running into major support.
This is November.
This is Nov 24. Yep. So again, Market Eye wanted to look at the difference between the front, like March and Nov, right? The nearby versus the backs. And what I think is interesting about it too is that the momentum is putting in a lower high and a lower low. That's a sign of weakness still. So the momentum would suggest that this trend lower will continue to break. So you could see, I guess, the nearbys consolidate while the deferreds break.
So you're saying, in that opinion, are you saying the front months are kind of a buy, the deferreds would be a sell?
You could, yeah. I mean, I guess if you want to like put on some kind of spread trade, right? Like buy March, sell Nov. I'm not talk to Market Eye Mike. He's in our office. It's an internal one. I'm not a fundamental expert by any means in beans for sure. And to me, it's like if you could have if there's some sort of short-term news item that comes up in the next couple of weeks, does that cause the fronts to kind of like what you'd see in the cash market for dairy, right? If we were to pop now, March, April would rally, but would D24 do anything? Probably not. Right. So do you see something similar? I'm not, like I said, you can talk to Market Eye Mike or you can talk to Jim Brook. One of the two gentlemen will be able to help you out with a little bit more fundamental knowledge. But yeah, either way, it looks like the fronts could consolidate while the backs continue to break. He also asked for corn.
Trajectory here.
Yikes. I mean, I don't really know what to say about corn other than it's just not looking too good out here.
Look at the monthly.
Let's take a peek at the monthly. Hang on. You're already skipping the weekly. Oh,
sorry.
Gosh.
Yeah, but I think last time we had talked about it, I think you had drawn that line last time we had talked about this on Tech Talk. I don't know if that was last week or the two shows ago.
None of the stuff looks good. So that's the monthly. The weekly is clearly rolling over. And if you want to look at where's the next area, right? I mean, the weekly seemed to find the most momentum. I mean, when it really started to go from here, right? So if you just extend this, right? So it could, I guess, dip to below $4 and see, maybe you get some consolidation there. But again, the momentum is not really giving you much to write home to mom about in terms of potential reversal or just consolidation. Not like what we saw in March beans. And then if you go to, I'm going to use Christmas corn here. East 24, Christmas corn. Christmas corn looks like it's actually a little bit more friendly than nearby March corn. Because here you have a clear, you have an attempt to break out, failure, but then now you're at least trying to put in a higher low here, at least in terms of momentum, which would tell you that the rate and the downtrend is declining, the rate of change. So let's go back real fast. March. Yeah, March. Yikes. I guess it hasn't totally broken out yet on the momentum piece, but that's a wicked candle right there. Let's get that price in there real fast. But there it is. And there's no you broke this support here. It's we closed here, which is in another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You're closing on the lows. It just looks like that downtrend's going to perpetuate. Whereas in Christmas here, you at least you need to close below this low, 455 and 3/4.
It also seems to be the opposite of soybeans that we just checked out. This seems to be sell the upfront, buy the deferreds in corn, where it was vice versa on the soybean side.
Correct. Except facto, vice versa. Sell the fronts, buy the backs, and the Ds and the corn. I mean,
but if you look at it on a monthly just by itself, it doesn't look very bullish by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. I mean, I'm not thrilled about hitting the buy button on corn in any month.
I would be at $3 though.
That matter.
I mean,
okay,
right? But
I hear what you're saying. Let's go back to the monthly real fast.
It's what order?
Yeah, I, for sure. I mean, I 100% see what you're saying from the standpoint. $3, got a ways to go, but I hear what you're saying. $3 chuck. Let's go. Chuck. All right. Well, that should. I mean, I think that covers it for Market Eye. I hope he has more requests. I know you're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. So am I, by the way, for YouTube. Views, subscribers. I mean, we're going to be Tech Talk and The Rock, social media influencing, stuff like that. When Tech Talk drops, it's just going to be that day. It's going to be nuts.
And the company said they were going to send me to the moon also. I'm pretty excited about that.
Send you to the moon.
Tech Talk on the moon. I'm pumped.
I want to go to the moon. What would you do like for a day on the moon?
Oof.
Like bounce around and like no
Check it
gravity?
out. See what's up there. You ever seen Interstellar?
Of course I've seen Interstellar.
I kind of picture that being my life when we get to 10,000 subscribers.
Which part? Like where gravity acts on that, like on that planet, and like 45 minutes on that planet is like 20 years or whatever
And
it was.
brings me back, and
on the spaceship.
I see myself in the present day, but it's actually the past me, but it's future me looking at past me through the bookshelf. All right.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? You could do. You could go back and at least like tell us how's the spread trade for Market Mike or Market Mike going to work out. You could go back and like be like giving us some Morse code on like don't buy the D's. Like by the way, that was quite the Matthew McConaughey impression.
Good actor.
I think you got a bright future in like being his stunt
double. I think so too. I appreciate
that. I think you do. I think you do. So all right, Jim Bro wanted to look at crude oil.
Crude.
Guess I don't really know what to say to it other than like the first thing that pops into my mind when I saw it was, is this failing to break through, what was once here? It was clear resistance here around 70, just under $79. This is the May contract breaks. And now it's taking another shot at it. If it starts to roll over, that's a clear failure to test former resistance and would suggest that we're going to take a little dip back down into here somewhere. I don't know. What do you think?
I thought the same thing. I pulled up the April and then I switched to the May, kind of like you have it here, and it looks like a giant M formation is taking shape. And I was going to say back down to $70 was kind of the next testing point on that one too.
What bothers me about this is that you had quite the long-term downtrend get broken recently, right? Mm-hmm. And you attempted to come back into it somewhat, right? Like right here. And poop, worked our way right back off of it. So the market doesn't seem to like. This was if you just like, I guess I'm just looking back at this downtrend. There's one, there's two, and now we have a third higher low, right? So I guess something to be super careful of is: are we seeing the makings of a potential ascending triangle? If that is the case, you would expect to see, depending on where you want to draw this thing, right? If that was the case, you would expect to see like continued higher lows while bumping up against the same basic area of resistance. And then at some point, like they basically converge. And that is usually a bullish pattern. Ascending triangles are typically pretty bullish. You kind of had one over here, right? Where you bump up against the same, this is $70 basically, and you bump up against that same horizontal area and you start to like stair step it higher each time you try to break. Yeah. But those are usually preceding a pretty big bullish move. So to your point, an M seems to be forming. I agree. I think the real test of that will be breaking below this low. You break below this low and then it's just like, see you later, alligator. So we'll see. I don't know. Is it going to be a bit cheaper for you to go fill up the tank? I don't know.
Not yet. I
think you got to be super careful though, because like I guess conversely too, if you don't even take a shot at testing this low and you break out from here, you have a big downtrend that got broken. You have momentum that's clearly to the upside, and then you break through. This area too. Let's use that number actually, because it was a point where those touches of the longer term downtrend become somewhat magnets, right? And so like the next stop would be up in here, which what price is that?
Is it 90?
Let's take a quick peek. 83.88, $84. So yeah, this one, like I said, this could get a little, if it starts to roll over, you could probably be short for a little bit, but I'd want to be super mindful of this area right here. Breaks through that. Bob's your uncle. We are going to roll over pretty hard, but this looks like it's starting to take like an ascending triangle type formation. Broke out of a big downtrend. You're going to start to, bump up against the same level of resistance and keep making higher lows until you take off. If I had a bet, that would be what I think is going to happen. I don't think we roll over and go to zero. My bet would be the ascending triangle takes shape and then you take off as we get towards like the spring.
Well, I was just going to say the way that you have that ascending triangle formulated there. Wow, can't even we could be in that thing for a long time. Next couple of months.
Could be. The longer that you do make that formation,
the more bullish,
the more explosive that thing is. What movie was that from, by the way? Was it Black Sheep or was it? I think it was Black Sheep. Limit. Limit.
Limit. That's another one of those freaky words. Limit.
Another one of those funny words, limit, with Chris Farley.
I don't remember that part.
All right, last but certainly not least, this one did not come at request. You and I were just going to take a little peek ski at this one.
May butter.
Little peek ski, but man, strong like bull, huh?
Dude, butter.
Look at this thing. Oh, here you go. Check this out. So we just talked about ascending triangles.
Yeah, perfect.
So, this isn't as good a one, but you made a higher low here but bumped up against it. But then as soon as you broke through it, it started to really go. So, but bounce, higher low, try it again, took off, and then ticked off. Now I can't talk.
But the momentum is also turning into a W also.
Oh, look at that. May butter. Strong like bull. This thing's looking pretty sharp. You're 100% right.
The only thing that, I don't know. So you don't have the RSI. I've got the RSI up on mine, but the RSI.
Well, let's take a little piece of it. I can pull it up. Hang on.
Into overbought in territory. But once we jumped above that RSI line, we haven't come below it since beginning, middle of January?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're I totally see what you're saying. It crossed overbought territory as soon as it broke out of this bad point right here. Right. So, but to your point, you can stay over, big quotes, overbought for a very long time. It's not until you cross through it and then you need to have multiple closes within back below this red line and start to actually, that's why I think momentum is also a really good indicator there too. If momentum crosses zero and then you saw this cross back down, that would be a big warning sign that this trend in May butter is done. So you have some conflicting secondary indicators here, but to your point, we haven't gotten out of this yet.
No,
this is not telling you that it's giving you the warning, hey, pay attention to me.
Well, and as you said, if momentum is something that you really want to look at and that is forming into a W formation, it looks like we're going to stay above that overbought territory for a little bit of time.
Correct. You could stay overbought for a lengthy period of time, for sure. So I don't I wouldn't take this as a means of saying it's time to liquidate. I just take this as a means of saying hey, it's starting to indicate that this may be overbought. You want to be super mindful. Maybe that's enough for you to say hey, maybe again, long futures, buy some puts against them and stay long.
Yep.
Something to that effect. We'll see.
We'll see. Time will tell.
Do they have butter on the moon? Is that where are you going to set up a business on the moon, or what are you going to do?
A lemonade stand for all the passerbys?
Lemonade stand, George Jetson just flies by or something like that with Elroy and
cheese stand for all the passerbys. How cool are they going to be the first company on the moon is Ever.Ag, and I'm the one leading the charge.
Are you gonna prepare a speech?
Yeah, I think I would.
You don't just want to feet on the ground for the first time on the moon and just not have anything to say. You got to have something really profound to say. So
as long as I make it back from the moon, right? Then you give your speech because you don't want it to be a failed mission. We're in the weeds on this whole space thing now. To get there, we need to get to 10,000 subscribers. So before I go to space and train for the 2 weeks or whatever the training program is through NASA,
2 weeks.
We need to get to 10,000 subscribers, and then once we do, Phil said I'd be able to go to the moon. Very excited. Gonna get my suit fitted.
You should get your suit fitted.
I appreciate Phil for this opportunity. But with that,
there you go.
Everyone, we're
very
close to 10,000 subscribers. I think we're at 1,100 or something like that. Few more, and we'll get there. Paige is saying no. We're at 1,000, maybe 1,000. 1,010. We're getting there. We're climbing the ladder.
Close.
We're climbing the ladder. So
close.
If we get to 10,000 by the end of December, we get a pizza party for the company. I get to go to the moon. And we have a very good following on YouTube. 3 great things to look forward to in 2024.
You should probably clarify with Phil that he's going to give you a ride back from the moon, too.
That's a good point. I don't want to just be dropped off and we'll see you later.
He's just deuces.
Turns it around.
See you later, Cody.
Very excited about that. But be a friend, tell a friend, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, give us a thumbs up. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. See you on the moon. We'll do a show from the moon.